Bruce Campbell and Angus Scrimm in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie? Jackpot! Mindwarp's a 1992 post-apocalyptic sci-fi horror film from director Steve Barnett. The movie opens the way most post-apocalyptic movies do. Kaboom!
Chaos, cruelty, pain, reality, a failure. Worse than any nightmare.
But enough about Pluto Nash. After the apocalypse, a company called Infinisynth created a VR simulation so the survivors could stay inside and experience whatever they wanted. It's the year 2037. Judy's rebelling against this because none of it's real. She's arguing with the computer because she doesn't want to be in a simulation anymore. Computers really suck in the future. Judy unplugs herself from the, Matrix? I love how retro the future is. This is like the lounge version of those egg chairs. Judy walks around the apartment and runs into a Roomba? What else does this movie predict? An Amazon Echo? Add some shitty push-ups there, Judy. She settles in to relax and puts on a CD. I wonder what music from the future sounds like.
Hey baby, wake up from your sleep. We have arrived onto the future and the whole world is become...
She's reminiscing over her deceased father, Ted Apple. Just then, Judy's mom wakes up from the simulation to get something to eat. Delicious green shit. Judy tries to talk to her mom, but she just wants to get back into the simulation. Her mom doesn't care, she's an opera singer. For a simulation that could be anything, those are some high school level props. Judy invades her mother's simulation to try to wake her up, but she accidentally kills her. You die in the sim, you die for real. This upsets the system operator. He decides to give her what she wants and lets her leave the simulation. Well, not so much leave as get stuffed into a garbage bag and thrown out. To try to calm her down, they inject her with some Tang. She wakes up outside next to someone's old Halloween decorations. She wanders around the wasteland and, that bag's pretty clean after being stuffed into the ground. Oh no, quicksand! A trapper hears her and goes to rescue her. Unfortunately, some toxic mutants also hear her. They pull her out of the ground and offer her something to eat.
You no want arm? Fine.
The trapper kills one of the mutants.
Carl, no!
He then gets Lenny and rescues Judy. Uh-oh, Lenny's still alive. How is he able to hide in the water without this guy noticing? He retrieves his sword and kills the mutant. Judy frees herself and tries to get away. She runs like Steven Seagal. The trapper stops her and it's Bruce Campbell. She's immediately entranced by his glorious chin. They need something to explode, so he blows up the mutant's tractor. Hey man, I borrowed that from my dad. Over in a cabin in the woods, Stover takes her back to his place to warm up and get something to eat. He tells her the mutants are called crawlers. They're cannibals that live underground. Wait a minute, they're cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. He finds out she's an in-worlder, and she explains she was banished from Infinisynth. The next day, he takes Judy outside to teach her how to survive in the wasteland. I don't think she's too appreciative of him catching dinner.
That's great.
I'm not a fan of eating possum, but it has to be better than whatever this is. Creamed asparagus? Judy tells Stover what life was like in Infinisynth and how she thinks she'd be happier outside. He thinks he'd rather be somewhere without cannibals. Judy's seductively walking around in her mom jeans, so Stover makes his move. He hasn't been with a woman in years, so... All of a sudden it gets quiet and the cabin's ambushed by crawlers. They take the two of them underground to their lair. Post-apocalyptic water slide! They put Stover in a worker camp and take Judy to the breeding area. She's probably regretting leaving Infinisynth right about now. The workers are digging through the trash looking for anything usable. This reminds me of Red Faction for some reason. Judy gets strapped to a device straight out of 50 Shades.
Oh sure, when Christian Grey does it, it's okay.
I Dream a Genie shows up and stops the crawler before he impregnates Judy. This is Cornelia and Claude. Claude seems to have herpes. Cornelia tries to inject Judy with butterscotch pudding, but is interrupted by some crawlers. Claude rings the dinner bell, so they all head to the main chamber. Stover finds a blade in a food processor. Judy tries to convince Claude to let her go. Is this evil Santa Claus's workshop? Stover kills one of the guards and escapes. Judy and Claude try to get away, but are immediately stopped by the crawlers. These guys remind me of the rednecks from Wrong Turn. Stover gets into a fight, and this is pretty gruesome. In the main chamber, there's a fountain that dispenses cherry Kool-Aid. In walks the leader of the crawlers, the Seer. Mutant League Football? Stover steals some clothes and goes looking for Judy. Since Cornelia disobeyed the seer, he's going to sacrifice Claude. The seer tears her eye out and drops her into a giant food processor. This makes enough for everyone to drink. No, that's good, Claude. The seer takes Judy. Stover tries to stop him, but gets overpowered by the crawlers. Judy takes the seer's mask off, and it's her father! They lock Stover in a cage, and some carnivorous leeches make their way up under his skin and into his brain. Oh, that one went up his pee hole. Ted Apple tries to explain how things work around here, and they had to see the humor in this.
And the stick?
Sometimes as literal as that. We have a number of short-term problems, Judy, that I'm trying to address.
He then shows her what he did to Stover. No one, and I mean no one, could deliver these lines like Angus Scrimm.
In the early stages, they feed on nervous tissue. The host organism starts to twitch as its dendrites are consumed. It's said to be pleasurable, like being tickled on the inside.
The seer lets Judy know how he intends to breed with her and create a new race of inbred mutants. She hides in the breeding chamber and finds one of the women. Then the seer finds her. Girl! Cornelia tries to help Judy escape. Judy sounds the alarm. For defying him, the seer hangs her from a meat hook and pushes her into some wall spikes.
Fatality.
Judy frees Stover, but he's out of it. I think I saw these leeches at a Halloween adventure store. The seer catches Judy and takes her to the main chamber. The seer decides if he can't procreate with his daughter, then he'll eat her. I just want to take a moment to say that this movie is really fucked up. He throws her down the slide and ow! Her jacket gets caught and prevents her from going all the way down. Stover's awake and busts in to rescue Judy. He gets into a fight with the seer and drops his bat where Judy can grab it. She uses the bat to stop the blade so she can escape. Stover knocks the seer into the machine and makes a Ted Apple smoothie. He tries to get Judy to take over as the new leader, but she runs away. She makes her way back to the surface while Stover chases her. He falls over and she goes back to help him, and oh no! And she runs into a pole. Huh? Oh, it was all part of the simulation. Judy's back talking to the systems operator. She wants to know if that's how the outside really is, and he tells her he has no idea. The seer takes off his helmet, and it's really her father. He tells her he's dying and needs her to take over as the systems operator. Hold on, how does she know this isn't still part of the simulation? She agrees and takes over as the systems operator. To think, all it took was for her to be fooled into thinking the outside world was a cannibal-infested nightmare where she had to drink the blood of a dead child and her father wanted to have sex with her. The movie was shot in 22 days, mostly in Windsor Lake Studios in Wisconsin, for about $1 million. The exteriors were shot in the sand and copper mining ruins in Gay, Michigan. In some foreign markets, the film was released as Brain Slasher. This was the second film released by Fangoria, the long-running horror magazine. In the early 90s, they were trying to start their own label for releasing independent direct-to-video horror films. Their goal was to release one film a year. Even though Mindwarp was filmed first, it was released after Children of the Night. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the 3 movies they released in the 90s were all unique and entertaining, none of them did particularly well due to the flooding of the home video market. After severed ties in 1992, they decided to stop producing films. In 1996, they returned as a distributor of unique horror films that couldn't find distribution. From 1996 to 2013, they distributed 26 films, from the twisted J-horror Another Heaven to the award-winning The Last Horror Movie. They were even responsible for the re-release of 2 older films, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I Drink Your Blood. While Angus Scrimm is known as the Tall Man from the Phantasm series, for me this will always be his second best role. While he's not in the entire film, when he arrives, his presence is felt. Bruce Campbell's a horror icon now, but he still was not well known back in '92. Army of Darkness wasn't released until '93, then later that year, Briscoe County Jr., and then he took off from there. While working on the film, Campbell met costume designer Ida Gearin. They hit it off, and shortly after filming, they were married and are still together today. There's also a little nod to Evil Dead 2 when Campbell sees the crawler with his hand cut off. Marta Martin played Judy under the pseudonym Marta Alicia. After this, she moved on to TV with the soap opera Days of Our Lives and continued working in television, all the way up to a long-running stint on CSI from 2002 to 2010. Mindwarp is one of my favorite post-apocalyptic movies. Even though the cast was small, it had both Bruce Campbell and Angus Scrimm, which makes it some of the best casting in a post-apocalyptic movie. Also, it had some of the most brutal gore in a post-apocalyptic film. I guess Fangoria wanted to come out swinging and make the film as vicious as possible. The effects were from Robert Kurtzman and K&B Effects, which helps to explain why the mutants and gore looked so damn good in this smaller budgeted film. I love this movie. It's messy, it's mean, it's unapologetic, and it's one hell of a head trip. For all we know, nothing in the movie happened, and it was all just Infinisynth giving Judy her wish fulfillment of doing more than being in a simulation by tricking her into thinking she was in control of the simulation. While it's not 100% certain, it does seem like the Matrix took at least some inspiration from this. The input jacks, the simulation inside of simulations, and the fact that the whole thing was being controlled by an old white guy.
She died for you!